Right now we're on page, following the page numbers, when we're Friedlander, page Mem Zion 47.
Rabbi, just for the Olam,
If you're following the paragraph numbers, we're in paragraph 56. And the Ramchal has started a discussion about Ra, evil, the evil that's in the world. Remember that the Sefer begins with the whole Sefer is about a dialogue between a neshama and the Seichel. The neshama said to the Seichel, I believe in the 13 animamis, the 13 principles of faith, and I understand 9 of them. I logically understand them and I can explain them. There are 4 that I believe in 100% as Teiras Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu taught this to Yoshua, who passed it down, etc. This is absolutely Torah. But these 4 I can't explain because they don't seem to be rational. They don't seem to work. The 4 are Hashgacha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is supervising the world. And number 2, Schava Onesh, reward and punishment. Bias Mashiach, which is a reward that nobody can even imagine what it is. And if I have difficulty understanding reward and punishment, I certainly don't understand how Mashiach works. And ultimately, Tchias HaMesim. I can't understand how that works because no one will understand how that works until it happens. But I believe in all 4 of them. The Seichel asked the Neshama, what is your difficulty with these concepts? And the Neshama answered, quite simple. The difficulty with Hashgacha and Schava Onesh is I just look out my window and that's the problem. Mesibos mishachbech betach buloso. The Ramchal quotes the pasuk in Iyov. The world is topsy-turvy. What's right is wrong and what's wrong is right. And we're living in that period of Ikvasa the Mashiach, of this absolute topsy-turvy. You can read the news, and we already know from what's happened the last few months, presumptively, as you read a news story, you understand that there are lies in there. And you understand that the facts as being told to you, some of them are true, a lot of facts are not being disclosed. And in many cases, if you're reading an editorial, you know from before you read the editorial that it's probably going to go to a place that's off the cliff. And people that sound normal are losing their jobs. They're getting fired, not because they're doing anything, but simply they're expressing their opinions in a way that's not consistent with lies. If you're not prepared to lie, and you're not prepared to fabricate facts, and you're not prepared to go along with a false narrative, and you want to just express your opinion, you're going to lose your job today. You can't be a college professor, you certainly can't be a politician, and you certainly can't be an average citizen living on the street who simply wants to say something that's not consistent with the sick, crazy narrative of today. So we are living in Mishapech L'tach Buloso. The world out there seems to be upside down. What's true is false. What's false, it's true. And you get rewarded for lying. You get rewarded, you get punished for telling the truth. So we're in a Mesibos Mishapech L'tach Buloso. This is the Ikvasa the Mashiach, the thrust of Ikvasa the Mashiach. And this is not a simple situation to deal with, very difficult to deal with. There are great men in the Gemara, Amoraim, in Perek Chelik in Sanhedrin, when the Gemara is discussing all the different things that will happen right before Mashiach comes. There are great men who said, Yesei v'lo achmine, let Mashiach come, but I don't want to have to live in that generation to see all these sorrows. So great men said, I don't know if I can withstand the nisyonos. I don't know if I can withstand the tests that will happen during the days of Mashiach as Chazal were teaching it. And this is Chazal themselves talking about what they're teaching. Yesei v'lo achmine. Let him come, but I can't live in that generation. It's going to be too difficult a challenge. This is our generation that we're expected to live with and expected to meet the challenge. there's in Zemiris on Shabbos, Leil Shabbos, there's a place in the Zemiris we say, Mechevle Mashiach Yutzolu Lirvocha. The common explanation is that when a person observes Shabbos, one of the rewards you get for observing Shabbos is you are saved from the pain of Mashiach. Chevle is usually explained as pain. A woman that's in childbirth and she's having pain, it's called chevle leda, childbirth pain, chevle, pain. Mechevle Mashiach, Yutzolu Lervacha, we sing Friday night. From the pains of Mashiach, those who observe Shabbos will be saved. I believe it's the Aptarov was once quoted as having said, Chevle, the word Chevle in Hebrew also means a rope, Chevel. Find that many places in Tanakh, Chevel means a rope. And the Aptarov said, Mechevle Mashiach, there's a rope of Mashiach. What does a rope of Mashiach mean? You have to imagine that the Rabboni Shalom throws down a rope. Loyalenu, somebody fell off a cliff and he's drowning in the water below. You throw him down a rope so he can grab the rope and climb back up. The Rabboni Shalom throws down a rope, and that rope is called Emunah, the Aptarov said. And you have to grab onto that rope and climb up to the rope to save yourself. The Chevle Mashiach is that the Rabboni Shalom is going to set into motion world events where the rope is going to shake. So you've already grabbed onto the rope, you're holding on for dear life, and now someone is shaking that rope violently, and you're barely able to hold on to that rope. You're holding on for dear life because if you lose your grasp on the rope, you're going to fall into the water and chas v'shalom drown. So after Rav said that's Chevle Mashiach. The rope is Emunah, and you have to hold on to that rope for dear life, because world events will shake that rope violently and will raise serious questions in your Emunah. This is what the Ramchal is dealing with when question number one of the neshama to the seichel is, okay, I believe that there's hashgacha, I believe that God is supervising the world, I can believe it, but now why don't you show it to me? Where is the supervision in all this chaos, in all this anarchy? And that's what the Ramchal has been teaching us. Amram, the Gadol Hador, as the Gemara describes him in Sota, he slapped Miriam in the head after Moshe was thrown into the Yam Suf and said, why did you tell us that this boy is going to take us out of Mitzrayim? He's going to die in the Nile. And as it turns out, he was thrown into the Nile so that Batya can take him out and bring him into Paro's house and take the Jews out of Mitzrayim. So the reason why Paro said throw the boys in the Nile was to make sure that the Jewish boys would die and no boy would take them out of Mitzrayim. Guess what? The very decree issued by Paro to throw the boys in the Nile, it boomeranged on him, and the boy got taken out of the Nile by his own daughter, raised in his own palace, and that boy takes them out of Mitzrayim. So the Rabboni Shalom, even though it looks like chaos, anarchy, Moshe's thrown into the Nile, no one's going to ever take us out of Mitzrayim, we're lost. Miriam prophesies, this is the boy who can take us out of Mitzrayim. Well, the boy is dead. He's going to die in the Nile. We're finished. We'll be in Mitzrayim forever. This is never going to end. Just the opposite. He got thrown into the Nile to make sure it will end. He took us out of Mitzrayim. So the Rabboni Shalom is that the rope is constantly being shaken. Is Moshe Rabbeinu about to die, God forbid, and will not take us out of Mitzrayim? Or is Moshe Rabbeinu in the Nile as a preparation to take us out of Mitzrayim? You got to hold on to that rope and understand that the chaos and the anarchy is part of God moving chess pieces all over the place to make sure that we have a Geula Shalema. So that is the Iker Hanhoga, the Ramchal explained to us. The Iker Hanhoga is Hanhogas Hashlita, Hanhogas Hatoiv, where God is going to use every event in the world for the purpose of the Geula Shalema, even though we think right now that it's an anti-Geula event. It's an event that has thrown the Geula for a loss. We have gone backwards. We are not going backwards. The Rebbe Shalom is going to show us how every event is used l'toiv. So even though there's Ra and Toiv in the world, and we as human beings have to view it that way, we have human eyes, evil is evil. You can't look at evil and say, oh, the evil is okay. Evil's okay. God's going to use it for the good, so it's okay. Hitler's a good person because God's going to somehow use the Holocaust as part of the Geula Shalema. So Hitler, let's celebrate Hitler. He's a good guy. That's what the Ramchal was teaching us yesterday. There's a Chochma Amuka. There's a level of the Chochma of the Rebbe Shalom that we will never grasp even when we become perfect human beings. We will get an understanding at a human level of how all these things work together. We are not permitted, however, to say that everything, even the worst of things that happen, are, now we have this belief. Everything that God does, God is going to use it for the good. But we are not permitted to walk by a person who is being Mechalel Shabbos and say, Baruch Hashem, he's being Mechalel Shabbos. Because all the evil in the world, God's going to use for the good. That's God's cheshbonos. We, under proper circumstances, have a mitzvah of tochacha. We have to talk to the Yid and say, you can't be, you should be Shema Shabbos. However you're going to do it, well, let's not get into mitzvah tochacha. But when we see evil, we see things that are being done that are not right, we don't smile and say, Baruch Hashem, God's going to turn that into something good, so why deal with it? Why deal with the evil in the world? God's going to use it for the good. God is God, man is man. We have two different jobs and two obviously completely separate levels of understanding. Our human understanding requires us to deal with situations based on the human understanding, ba'asher hu sham, as we call it, and the Rosh Hashanah is going to do what he needs to do with the event. So when Moshe was thrown into denial, Jews didn't get up and clap and say, yay, Moshe's in denial. We know God is going to do something good with this. Rashi at the end of Pashas Bereshis gives us the rule. B'shas chedvasa, chedvasa, b'shas evla, evla. Human beings have to live in time. If it's a time of simcha, there are halachas how we observe simcha. Le'aleinu, if it's a time of avelis, there are rules about how we observe avelis. We don't clap, smile, and laugh chas v'sholom during avelis and say, Kol ma'adovat rachmana l'ta'ah. Everything that God does is for the good. Baruch Hashem, the person died. I'm so happy he died because I know it's for the best. That's not hilchas avelis. B'shas chedvasa, chedvasa, b'shas evla, evla. We're human beings. We live in time. The Rebbe Shalom is a hoya hoya v'yeh, so all of it melds together, and therefore it's all one big, wonderful message. But for us that live in time, and that's the way the Rebbe Shalom created us, b'shas chedvasa, chedvasa, b'shas evla, evla. It's a Rashi at the end of Bereshis. When it's time for simcha, use simcha. When it's time l'aleinu avelis, you use avelis. So long as there's Ra and Tov in the world, we see Ra and we see Tov. But we need to have an emunah shlema that the Ribono Shel Olam is working every event, even the Ra, to ultimately bring about the Geula Shalema. So while we talked about two supervisory powers that the Ribono Shel Olam uses, he has any power he wants, but the two powers that he created to supervise the world, Hanhogas Hayichud Shlita, Hanhogas Hatoy, to bring the imperfect world to a state of perfection, the Hanhogas Hatov Hara, the supervision over a world where there's good and evil, and God allows good and evil, so men and women can make choices, and therefore they can get schar because they earned it. Even in the world of good and evil, percolating and bubbling inside that is the Hanhagas HaToiv. So when you come down to it, the nitty-gritty, there's only one Hanhaga. The world is being supervised with Toiv at all times. We see good, we see evil. That's from our vantage point. The Shoresh is always Tov. So let's take a look at a few lines of the Ramchal. This is going to be explained in the Ramchal now. and in a comment by Rav Friedlander. Bottom of page Mem Zayin. V'omnam, however, kolzman shan hogas hatov v'ra tzrich l'shamis, so long as the world is going to run with a hanhaga of good and bad. We already mentioned that expiration date is 6,000, and it should come to an end. Meher Yemena before. Mepulas hashlemus atzmo yimoshu ha'pu'ulos habois mechuke hatoy v'ra. From that nida, from that hanhaga of shlemus, perfecting the imperfect, to bring the geula shlema, to do the hatava, to perfect an imperfect world, all comes from the hanhagas hashlemus. V'zeh ki al kol ponim moker hakol hu hashlemus. Because when you get to the nitty gritty, you're dealing only with hanhagas hashlemus. God is perfecting an imperfect world. And in this imperfect world, there happens to be evil. Why is there evil? So that we would have an opportunity to join in the perfection of that imperfect world. If it was created perfect, without any imperfections and without evil, we wouldn't have anything to do here. We couldn't get real reward. So part of the Hatava is giving us an opportunity to have Bechira and therefore earn our reward. So it all comes back to Shleimus. God wants to perfect an imperfect world and give us an opportunity to join in that effort. So let's take a look now at footnote 100 in Rav Friedlander at the bottom of the page. Rav Friedlander is going to give us a mashal that the Ramchal himself is going to use soon. The mashal is as follows. I've told this story many times because it left on me, it still has on me, left a permanent impression. When I wasn't in Danville. I was up in Danville, Virginia. I mentioned how I got to Danville, Virginia. We're not going to go over that story. I got to Danville, Virginia through a certain program in New York. I ended up being the Rav in Danville, Virginia. It was a big schus for me, wonderful community. And Danville, Virginia is about a 20-minute drive to Raleigh, North Carolina. It's literally on the border of North Carolina. It's the South. I wasn't there very long. And there was a minig for the longest time that every so often on a Sunday morning, whether it was every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, after davening, there would be learning. We learned every Sunday morning in shul. But after learning, there would be a big breakfast. The men, the women, it would be a social event. And everybody would talk about things that are happening with their families. It's a southern type of situation. People are very friendly, open. They want to talk to each other. So there would be, after davening, learning, breakfast. Sitting right next to me and learning was a yid by the name of Clef, Mickey Clef. Mickey loved to learn. He was very involved in his learning. We're talking and he would ask questions during the learning. We finished learning. We had breakfast. Mickey spoke during breakfast. We had an interchange about different ideas during breakfast. Mickey was very active. The breakfast ended. We benched. Everybody went home. I probably got to my home in Danville, Virginia. I was at home about 5 minutes. The phone rang. My wife picked up the phone, I believe. She gave me the phone. And it was at that time, a young man who lived in Danville, Virginia. And he told me that Mickey Cliff just passed away at home. And he's telling me, I didn't know this, he's telling me that the rabbi of Danville, Virginia is also the head of the Chevra Kadisha. And you have to come down to lead us in the Tahara of the body. I've never done a Tahara, obviously. I was, I think, 22 when I was in Danville, Virginia. I never did a Tahara. I never learned the halachas of how to do the Tahara. And I'm now being told, which I wasn't told, that I'm the head of the Chevra Kadisha. And the Tahara is going to be done like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that. And this is like, I don't know, 10:30 in the morning. So I have a couple of hours to take out my Gesher Chaim and learn through all Hilchas Tahara. I take out my Gesher Chaim, I learn all Hilchas Tahara. I have no idea what's waiting for me. Right? I've never done this. I go to the chapel. We go up to the special room, myself and a group of people who are members of the Chevra Kadisha. And Mickey, obviously, Loyalenu, is not alive. And he's laying on a slab, and his body is ready to be washed down. And before I did anything, everybody's waiting for me to start. I didn't do anything. I just stared at him. I was trying to figure out, I was saying in my mind, I didn't actually move my lips, but I was saying in my mind, Mickey, where are you? I just learned with you a couple of, maybe an hour before, you were sitting at the table. We were learning Masechta Brachas together. We were talking. At the breakfast you were eating, at the breakfast we were talking. Mickey, where are you? Open your eyes. Mickey, what's going on here? And as I'm doing this in my mind, it took a couple of seconds. I realized that what I have in front of me is Mickey, but it's Mickey without a neshama. His neshama left, and therefore his eyes don't work, his ears don't work, his mouth doesn't work, his nose doesn't work, his brain doesn't work, his heart doesn't work. It's Mickey. Mickey is there. That's the Mickey that sat next to me during breakfast. He's all there. The eyes, the nose, the face, everything is there. Mickey is here, but Mickey ain't here because his neshama's not here. And I realized as I'm thinking that the neshama makes the eyes work, makes the ears work, makes the nose work, makes the mouth work, makes the heart beat, makes the lungs breathe. The neshama is an unbelievable thing. You take the neshama out, not a single part of the body can work. Everything shuts down. The neshama goes into the body, boom, the eyes are open, the ears can hear, the mouth can taste, the heart's beating, the lungs are breathing. It's unbelievable. This neshama thing is an unbelievable piece of machine. It's like a battery. You can have a beautiful toy. You buy your child or your grandchild this beautiful car, this beautiful fire engine for Hanukkah or for a birthday, and you forgot to ask the fellow in the toy store, how many batteries do I need? So you get this thing gift wrapped, and you bring it to the birthday party of Hanukkah, you give it to your grandchild, the grandchild rips open the big boy, is he excited about this car or this fire engine? And then everybody goes, oh, we don't have batteries. And the child is really disappointed because he really wanted to see how this thing works. He's so excited about this present. You start knocking on neighbors' doors. Do you have a C battery, a D battery, a AA, a AAA? You forgot the batteries. So you can have this most beautiful truck, and you didn't bring the battery. The battery makes the wheels move. It makes the siren goes off. It makes the lights move, go on and off. No battery, skatenish. So the neshama is not only, it's not just what we call neshama, it's a life-giving source. And I don't want to get into the Rambam and other Rishonim, what part of the neshama is life and what part of the nefesh is life. The neshama gives the guf life. Call it nefesh, call it neshama. I don't want to get into that discussion. It's way beyond 1, 2, 5, 10 shiurim. Achlikas Rishonim, what part of neshama or nefesh, according to the Rambam, actually gives life to all the other parts of the body. But the neshama, once it's inside the body, the eyes can work, the ears can work. Loyalenu, you take the neshama out, nothing works. So in footnote 100, Rav Friedlander is going to use the Ramchal's mashal to introduce us to this subject. 100, footnote 100. Hanhogas hashlemus, hi hamaf'ila es hanhogas hashona shederach hatov v'ra lefi derech pulasam, kedugmas haneshama shemaf'ila es evori haguf lefi derech pulasam. The same way the neshama is inside the guf. And you can't see the neshama. What you see are the eyes. And you'll have all the scientists tell you that the way the eyes work are X, Y, Z. And of course, that's how it works. It has a retina, it has a this, and the brain interprets what the eyes see, and you have eardrums to hear that. All of that. It's 100% true. It's neflois habayri. But at the end of the day, none of this is going to work unless the neshama, a battery, is in there and making it work. And the neshama you can't see. You cannot see the neshama. By the same token, there are world events that are happening and that percolating and bubbling inside them is the Hanhagas Hatayv. You don't see the Hanhagas Hatayv. Moshe is thrown into the river, you want to cry, and that's appropriate. But what's going on beneath the surface in the Chochmah Amuk, in the depths of God's Chochmah, is God is controlling the events with something you cannot see that's going on inside the events. The same way that the guf is completely running by a neshama that you can't see, and once Chashom, the neshama is not there, you got proof, positive, that the neshama is what gives the guf its physical abilities. The same way in world events, which are the guf, inside the world events there's a neshama. And that neshama is the Ribbono Shel Olam running the events ultimately for the Toiv. The neshama gives sight, the neshama allows hearing, and inside every event, like a neshama in a guf, the Ribbono Shel Olam is turning these things into Geula Shalema. We'll stop here today with this mashal. The Friedlander will continue tomorrow, and Ramchal will continue with this tomorrow. And it's important because we're dealing now with the first question. Remember, this is a book of 4 questions, and we've learned a lot about general principles. There are 4 questions that this Sefer has to address. I don't understand rationally Hashgacha. I don't see how God's actually running the world. It looks like it's topsy-turvy. Question 2, schar and onesh, reward and punishment. Looks like the good guys are doing bad, the bad guys are doing fine. Bias Mashiach, Trias HaMesim. We need to answer those 4 questions. We have general principles, and now we're beginning to move into an answer. What is the answer to, is in fact God running the world, supervising the world? Is there in fact Hashgacha? And we have the basic principles to now deal with the details of that Hashgacha.